In today's episode, we're going to learn how to make these amazing leather gauntlet claws. Stay tuned. Greetings, adventurers, and welcome to Skill Tree, where we learn how to do just about everything. So, with the largest LARP in the world, Conquest, just around the corner, learn more about that here, by the way, I'm kind of in crunch time trying to figure out cool little effects and pieces to go with my character. And one of the things I think I've landed on is some kind of articulated gauntlet, almost like these medieval metal ones here. So I thought it would be fun to try to make this out of leather. And that's today's episode. Today we're gonna go from trying to figure out exactly how to make this thing work all the way to actually making this thing work. And it all starts with the design. So to do this, the simplest way I could think of was actually just to take a picture of my hand and draw over it kind of what I thought it would look like. I fiddled with a bunch of different layouts and whatever, and finally settled on this here, kind of laying out all the parts how I think they would go. I then took that and traced over it in my art program to make this right here. Now, if you don't have a little iPad or the ability to do that, that's fine. You could totally just make these things out of paper, see how they fit, and those become your templates. I'm personally just trying to get better at making templates so I can make them for you. And it's trickier than it looks, so I'm practicing. You also then, of course, can just use your templates to cut your shapes out of your leather. I decided to use my laser cutter this time around. One, because I wanted to look really ornate, and two, I was actually really sick while I was doing this thing. I did not feel well while I was putting this thing together. It was cathartic and nice for me to get down in the workshop and just kind of work my way through it, but I wasn't in the mood for too heavy of a lift here. And it shows, because even though these things came out really cool looking actually, I screwed them up, and I'll show you how in just a second. But first, I want to show you kind of a cool thing if you do happen to have a laser cutter or engraver somehow. You usually end up with this kind of burning mess on your leather, which doesn't look great. You could mask that out with masking tape, but then you have to kind of weed out all the masking tape afterwards, and it can be kind of a pain. But I learned that you can actually just take these things, dunk them into some soapy water, and just scrub away the burn. The soap does not hurt the leather at all. If anything, you might need to replace some oils in it afterwards. But yeah, it ends up looking really clean, perfect. I then just took these and dip dyed them some USMC black. Again, because I didn't want to have to sit there and hand dye everything. I was very lazy with this one, guys. Promise it comes out good, but I was real lazy. Also, while it was wet, I decided to try to wet form them a little bit so they would dry in the position I needed them to dry in. And it's here when they dried that I realized the issue. One, they were super stiff, crazy stiff, which is to be expected. Whenever you dip dye something, especially if it's in an alcohol-based dye, it just strips the things of the oil and it makes them almost feel crispy, like they want to snap if you go too far. But that, coupled with the fact that I actually burned straight through these things, I didn't realize it went as deep as it went until it hardened like this and it actually started to crisp and flake away. I can let some things slide. I can't let that one slide. That's a bad one. I'm gonna be honest, the amount of work it took up to that point, plus me not feeling well, I was freaking out just a little bit. Luckily, I had today's sponsor, Fume, to calm me down. Now, if you've been watching me for any time at all, you've probably heard me mention Fume. It's a flavored air device. And honestly, it is just it's always in my pocket. It's super relaxing to just kind of fiddle with. The way it works though is it actually has a little hollow inside where you can put flavor cores. The flavors do exactly what it says on the tin. It flavors the air. So all you do is take it into your mouth and you can taste whatever flavor you have in there. I have the mango one. I think it's a new one for them. It is stupid good. Not only is it really good, but it just genuinely smells nice just even sitting in this thing. But yeah, Fume has no smoke, no vapors. You don't have to change any batteries or anything. It's just flavored air. But aside from that, it's made with the fiddler in mind. It's clicky, it's really weighty. You can kind of play with it in your hand. And they even make these little rubber toppers for it so you can chew on it if you're stressing out. Anyways, I love mine and I think you'll like it too. So if you want to give it a try, just head over to fume.com/skilltree and put in my code SKILLTREE at checkout and you'll get a free topper with your journey pack. It's the perfect thing for when you're just idly working on the computer or freaking out over a build not going well. Anyways, for round 2 Claw Boogaloo, I decided to just take some more of this 6-ounce veg tan leather and dye it first, before then masking it out and sending it back to the laser cutter. I probably didn't have to mask it off. I could have just used that soap and water trick again, but I didn't want to risk it with the dye unless I'm just testing a thing. At this point, I really needed to get it done. But it came out looking really good. You can see some of that burnness to it, but I think we can get that off when we go to buff it later on. Besides, we're still gonna dunk this thing in water anyways because I'd like to wet form it. Really shaping each piece around my finger where it goes, developing that claw the way I want it, and giving the top of the hand's knuckle area a lot more character. And once they're all cured, it honestly, it looks really cool. This is one of those parts of the project where I'm like, you know what? I think this is gonna work. Not only is it gonna work, but this is actually pretty easy. But I did want to jazz up that kind of scroll work that I have fiddled throughout there. I thought about using like a rub and buff or a paint or something, but I actually ended up just using this EcoFlow silver dye here. I tried it as an experiment first, and I was so impressed with how it came out that I just decided to go throughout the whole thing. Like, all I did was paint it on over the black, let it dry, and look at how good that looks. It's not crazy bright and shiny, which isn't really my style anyways. I don't like anything that shiny, but it lets some of that black show through. It makes it look like it has more depth like real metal does. I don't know, I really like how that came out. That was pretty good. And since I was happy with it, I just decided to lock it into place with some resist. I actually found these little kind of stamp sponges work great. These are sold at like Michael's or whatever for doing like glitter stamps or something. Just little sponges on a stamp, they're perfect. And check out how cool this thing looks when it's all laid out together. I love how this is coming out, though I'm at a crossroads because I'm not positive in how I actually want to put it together. Like, I want these things to articulate freely, be able to move around nice and comfortably, but I'm not sure how to do that. Luckily, I just so happened to have a bunch that I failed with that I could put together and test on. I'm gonna retroactively say that was planned. It's a test piece. I need to know what I'm doing, right? Sure. But this let me test out the two different ways I was thinking of putting it together. The first way, and the way I did design it to go together, was actually so that each one of the little like knuckles on your finger, or the point where it would bend, overlapped each other, and then pins would go through the side. My thought is that would allow them to kind of bend and flex. Turns out in practice, it does not do that. I think if they were made out of metal, it probably would, but because they are a flexible material, the leather rather bends before it actually lets it like move in that direction. Whereas in the other way I did it here, which was just kind of pinning it to a piece of flexible like chrome tan leather, that worked great. It's super flexible, it doesn't resist me at all. Like, the other one moves, but it only moves because I'm bending the leather. And I think if I had that on my hand all day, my hand would get sore. It took a little bit of work to do. The other side, it moves around, front to back, side to side. Even as far as like compression of the fingers, one of them doesn't move at all, and the other one kind of armadillo shells down a little bit, which seems like that wouldn't be a good idea until you realize when you bend your hand like this, that actually takes up a lot more space. That thing has to move all the way around, and the one side pulls away and lets your finger poke down, where the other one, it stretches and flexes to fit your finger. So with that, we have a winner. That's what we're doing. Okay, so to make it follow the movement of my fingers, I figured we can just have like a little strappy at the fingertips here, so I knew exactly how much it needed to like loop. So to do that, I just grabbed this little strip of leather here, wrapped it around my finger, and used double tape to make it hold its shape. Then I just used my hole puncher to pierce through those pieces so I can attach it to everything else. I of course did this with every one of my fingers. Obviously, I don't want to just like have this finger working, all the rest flopping around. But notice I left them kind of large. This is because I want to wear this with gloves, so I wanted to give myself enough space here. So barehanded, it works really well, but it's a little bit looser than I want because I will be wearing this with gloves. That said, by the way, if you have a pair of gloves that you don't mind turning into a gauntlet forever, you could just like tack this thing to the glove and that'll work out real well too. All right, so with that little loop good to go, I just went ahead and pierced a hole right in what would end up being like my fingertip claw area, so I'd have a connection point. I also cut long strips that'll act to back the whole thing and hold it all together. Then I simply put a rivet through all of those pieces and lock them in together. Now you can see, connects to my fingertip and moves when fingertip moves. Simple. After that, it was a simple matter of kind of stacking one right behind the other, piercing a hole through everything, and then locking those in with some rivets as well. Until I had this flexible, creepy little finger here. Which looks really cool though. Well, it's creepy, but it looks really good. I of course did that 4 more times, giving me the dexterity of a gibbon. I don't know how dexterous a gibbon is, but it's dexterous. I can move around, it's great. I then took the final plates on all those little fingers and connected them right where the knuckles would go to hold everything rigid there. You can see on the other side I also locked in those strips so they'd stay put. I contemplated just locking in the strips, thinking it would give me more motion, but it actually just ended up kind of being a little like sloppy on this end. So actually physically connecting them to where the knuckle plate is worked out better. So to hold the rest of this thing like actually on my hand, I just took that plate that would end up being the back of my hand and riveted a strap with a buckle on it to it. Then after strapping that in place where it would go, I put the rest of the assembly in place to see how it would land, punched my holes and laid those rivets so everything stayed in place. Oh, earlier I messed up. I said I did the fingers 4 more times. I left the thumb out for now because I wanted to attach one more strap that would hold it to my wrist. And rather than having extra holes, I figure I can use one of the holes that I'm going to attach the thumb to also hold that whole assembly in place. You'll see in just a second. I just figured I'd tell you. Before that though, I noticed that as I was kind of opening and closing my fingers, it was sliding a little bit, like my finger was sliding out towards the tip. And I think that's because it was so flexible, like doing that armadillo action there, that it could like come down and get stuck in that one little space. So I figured what I really needed was to secure that plate just below the first knuckle first so that it wouldn't move as much. Luckily to do this turned out to be dead easy. All I did was make another loop that was sized to just behind that knuckle there, and I busted out these little leather staples that I got at Tandy. These things are awesome. They just have super sharp little legs that I used to push through that ring of leather right where it overlapped, then simply used a hammer to put those little legs down. Just like, you know, a staple. It's just holding everything together there, and actually the front of it looks decorative. It looks pretty. And to secure that, all I did was slide it down the fingers until it reached the break between the 2 knuckles that I wanted, and then slid it up in between all of those pieces. It's actually locked in. It can't go anywhere. It can't get out from behind those pieces of leather without me working to get it out. It can't slide back and forth because there are rivets there. And it holds everything perfectly. Like, it doesn't move on me at all now. It's great. And since it isn't actually connected, if I ever wanted to, I could remove those and maybe change the shape if I think they're too tight or whatever. I actually might do the same thing for the top fingertip pieces too, just to give me some variety and some options. All right, so to wrap this thing up, I wanted to have something around my wrist here to hold it even further from sliding around. For this purpose, I designed and cut some more straps, one wide one, one thin one here, which I figured I'd just connect to this flexible piece of leather that I riveted onto the bottom. Also bringing my little thumb into play there now, see? It all came back around. We got there. After that, I slid my fingers in place, strapped it all together, and look at how friggin' cool this thing is. Oh my God, it's so dope. I love how this thing came out. I think the only thing I gotta do is add a little bit of a black dye underneath here with a paintbrush, but look at it, it's so cool. It holds on great. It doesn't really feel like I'm wearing anything. I think having this wrist part be flexible was 100% the move. That worked out great. I can still like pick things up just fine. And though the initial thought was to make one for either hand, I kind of, really dig that like asymmetrical look. I think that works not just for my character, but for me in general. I like it. And also, if I need to itch my eye or something, I like having a non-clawed hand to be able to like do delicate works. In fact, if I had to do this again, I probably would put this one on the left hand since I'm a righty, but you know. But I was surprised at exactly how easy this build was to do. Sure, I had the laser helping out, but if you don't mind sitting and cutting little plates, it's not even a lot of them really. You could, in short order, have something pretty badass. That's pretty neat. It really didn't take a lot of supplies to do, and I was hard winging it through most of this, so you for sure can get this done. This thing is cool. But of course, I like it. I made it. You let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Also, leave me some tips if there's a different way you'd go about this, or if you have another design you like better. Look at how like mean that looks though when you curl your hand, all those little spikes. That's kind of aggressive. I like that. It's very ring wraithy. Which, have you ever thought like, how would the ring wraiths pick up the ring? I feel like that's really tricky to use just the very tips. There, come on you, almost. Anyways, I hope you liked this episode. If you did, why don't you give me some of that like it love, and don't forget to subscribe so you know when I release new content. In the meantime though, keep leveling up, you. And once again, a quick thank you to Fume for sponsoring this episode. You've made it to the end screen. YouTube loves it when you do that, and it's a fantastic way to support this channel. Another fantastic way to support this channel is by joining these people's noble ranks. These are our Patreon members, and we could not do this without them. It's because of them we're able to afford all the materials we have and keep leveling up our skills. A special shout out to our newest high tier Patreon member, Matthew Bushcraft. And a massive shout out to our Grandmaster tier Patreon members, Just a Guy from the Southwest, Wild Fox 99, Froggy, Dragon Designs, and Yuri Satro. If you like what we do here enough to support us, consider joining our Patreon, link in the description below. Otherwise, you can check out one of these videos that YouTube thinks you'd like, and that helps out a lot too. Now, if you don't mind me, I have hobbits to chase. I hear they're going to a festival soon. Okay, it's the Soupy Scritcher 3000. This is what it's made for right here. Okay.